So George and I are presenting professionally today, but George and I have known each other since we were 9 years old. I know. And I remember staying at his house, and his father would just look at the number of shoes that were downstairs in the morning on a Saturday and then just make breakfast for whoever was there. You can see up here, we spent a year in Latin America. In the middle, in the 80s in Port Dover, we're pretending, I guess, to be like an 80s band or something.
I really miss that trench coat.
You miss that trench coat. So it's just lovely to be up on stage with George and cover AI. And we're going to take two different tracks very quickly. I mean, there is an hour and a half of material to cover in 20 to 25 minutes. There are some QR codes and downloads at the end to spoil you with checklists and extra tools. But I'm going to start off bigger picture. And then George is going to get into, you worried me a bit of an AI hallucination, as well as
my Vision Quest with me.
Vision Quest. All right, so we are using AI in fundraising and nonprofits, but I want to remind you, and you have this slide deck afterwards. On the left-hand side, a study by University of Pennsylvania that just reminds us, right, that there are challenges in how we use AI. So in this test, right, really helped in preparing for a test. Those who had used it did not as well in the test, so around retention and concept. On the right-hand side, and I don't think there's anything surprising here, right, an over-reliance, some skills decay, right? So you'll have the hypertext links. Employees who consistently relied on it, they may have less, right, problem-solving strength than those who don't. Hands up if you're surprised by this. No. So with that in mind, we want to move along and think about the implications of using AI from an environmental perspective. Somebody tell me what this is. Where is this? This is a 3 Mile Island, right? So using AI takes a lot of energy. Hands up if you know that. Takes stunning amounts of energy. So how we use it, right? How many times more power does an AI-powered Google search use than a standard Google search? Somebody just tell me. Have a guess. 1,000 times more? That would be scary. But you're actually right. It's 10 times more. It's 1,000. Right? So stunning amounts of power. So again, how do we think carefully about using it? Knowing its problem-solving, skills atrophying effect, proven in studies, how it uses a ton of power. And you do know that Microsoft has asked and is reopening 3 Mile Island. Do we know this? Yes. To use it for server farms and generating power for AI. So Western society has this absolutely stunning ability to take something and overuse the hell out of it. So if we look at coffee, right? It had a Sufi sacred reason connected to worship. Do you take coffee to be more alert for religious, right, insights? No. Right? Chocolate was a sacred Mayan substance. Is it sacred to you? Yes, maybe. Sitting in the fridge, it might have a sacred quality, but we overuse it. Diamonds, the same. They had a sacred, religious, social purpose. Now it is, right, a commercial purpose. And tobacco, a good North American example, right? Used sparingly by indigenous groups for sacred reasons, we blew it all apart. So all I'm saying is we show no restraint, right, with so many things. So I'm warning us, come on, let's think carefully within the social impact sector how we use it, okay? What is this? This is an Amish tool. What is it? Somebody give me a... It's for planting tobacco. What you're going to do is give me a list of earnest things. How about planting fence posts? Yes. Oh, no, it's to make golf holes on greens. So, the Amish they don't shy away from technology. They often create it and sell it, right, to a consumption-focused West. But they're very careful about how they use and introduce technology. So, for example, the Amish may have a milk truck, and they bring it to a family. And he or she, he in this case, drives it, and a year later, the family sits down with the community and says, what did this technology do? Did it give you more time to be with family? Right? What were the social implications of that technology? We tend not to think like that. So, get out your phone. You'll have this, and you don't have to do it now. You'll have the deck. It's an Amish AI checklist. How do you show restraint? Right? Does it create aimlessness? Right? Does it create waste, distraction? All of those things. So I just want you afterwards to just think carefully. How will I use it? How will I be focused? How does it help me do my day-to-day work? All of those things. So, level of worry. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no worry, how many people are in the 1, 2, 3? No worry about using AI. Either being caught, because nobody knows. Right? Who's in a 5 range? Hands up. Who's higher than that? Yeah, about 30%. So we do a study every year, Digital Outlook Report, and last year, the more senior you are, the more you worry. That makes sense, right? I have no policy or governance in place. I know my staff are using it on the side, and my board is going to flip their lids. So, just remembering in an organization who is worried and what are the responsibilities of staff to use AI tools. In a huge global study by Microsoft, 3 things stood out around AI, social impact, and the commercial sector. Employees want it. Right? They just want to have it and start using it. And we'll get to solutions to let that come to full fruition. For employees, they see it as a way to get ahead, right? To get better, especially younger shifted. So the younger you were, the more you thought this. So how do we enable that opportunity if we're managers, directors, and leaders? So the Microsoft study also looked at return on investment, right? So let's translate this over time to the nonprofit sector. So you might have to have studies to prove if we invest in AI, good things will happen over time. Hands up if you probably have to make some kind of case to use AI more over time. Nobody? Yep, hands up. Yep. So for every dollar a company invests in AI, it's getting about a $3.50 return on investment. You can see the source below. What is it for fundraising? And it takes about 14 months to return that investment. That's in the commercial sector. So what does it look like in yours? So for anyone who does acquisition and fundraising, there is a return on investment and a break-even point, right? For whether it's in the mail, whether it's telemarketing, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's digital. So it's the same. How do we think that way for AI investment? So really quickly, here is Connecticut Children's Hospital, and this is Amanda Ronson, and she had to talk to senior management as well as the board and had to make the case and be thoughtful and careful about investing in AI. So part of this presentation to the board, right, creating a policy with the end in mind. Hands up if you have an AI policy at your organization. 20% of you. Okay? And you can see, define your outcomes, focus on impact, get specific. I love this from Charlie Jarrett, a senior consultant for us. I love it, right? Automate the grunt work, protect the hard work. It's just like, that's a fantastic way to look at this. Repetitive process tasks, data entry, cleanup, report generation, calendar management, just things that you can find solutions to automate with AI. Hard work, right? More time to do the things on the right. It's the way to look at it. So again, this was looking at analyzing Connecticut Children's Foundation policy. So we looked at it and we said, here are the things you need to make better, right? So governance structure, risk assessment, human accountability, and data protection, all things that need to be absolutely powerful. What's missing in most current AI policies, and it was no different for Connecticut Children's, right? Inadequate equity protections, no workforce development plan, transparency framework missing. So all of those things. So steal liberally, and there'll be links to policies later, right? Things that you can get after this conference. Look at the links here when you have the PDF, and you'll be able to go get policies and then apply them to your situation and these kinds of situations. So for Connecticut Children's, they wanted to know, like, once we put the policies in place, then what? Right? And so we were saying, look, predictive analytics. How many people here have used AI in a privacy-safe way to look for data insights? Hands up. Like, I'm stunned that 35% of you put up your hands. Like, for us and our clients, wow, right? There are companies out there that do data analytics, right? And they mash buttons and their algorithms go at it. You can also, as an adjunct, right, take your data, anonymize it, and AI comes up with insights that they didn't see before. We just did some work with Planned Parenthood in New York. For 1/100th of the price, it found data insights in its monthly donor and mid-level donor that million-dollar data firms had not found. So you can afford to use it. Sentiment analysis, personalization at scale. So all of these things are possible, and we bugged them about this. So that's me,
Okay.
real fast. I'm going to hand you the talking stick.
Thank you. That was super useful information for approaching kind of where we are in our understanding of kinds of things that AI can do and integrate with our programs. It is all still kind of very kind of cloudy and a bit unknown. What we're much more familiar with, I think each of us is this kind of idea. ChatGPT is your fundraising assistant, sits beside you, helps you with your work. I think that's where we are now. I want to bring you with me on the journey that I've been going on for the past year to 6 months, because I was working large nonprofit as a digital strategist and very much in this space that we're doing all day today. Kind of took myself out of that and I dove back into an earlier thing as living as a coder and trying to learn AI in terms of what's going on at that building level. And so I did become comfortable calling myself a coder Now I call myself a vibe coder, and we'll get to that. But first, I want to think about like just how, if we think about AI as ChatGPT, that's the starting point. But where is it going? Because it's evolving very quickly. And so I ran a workshop a few weeks ago at another conference, a Build Good conference, said, let's build an awesome fundraising app live. And we did it within the workshop. In fact, we chose from a list of 3 different apps. These are all quite useful. They're not earth-shaking, but these are all useful kinds of apps that could help you in your job, and AI-powered. We actually built 3 of them in the hour and a half space of that workshop. And the point was, well, we didn't actually build the last one. We got halfway through it. The point I wanted to make was that we are been taught over so many years and decades that software is hard, complicated, it's for experts, it doesn't do what you want, it's just a headache. And this is one of the things that is happening now in the world, in the strange world that I've been in for the last 6 months of coders and application engineers. And this is changing so quickly with the advent of AI and the integration in of what they call agentic AI, AI agents, AI that is much more than just a companion that sits beside you, but that is actually does stuff for you. And then as you work with it more and more, it becomes more powerful. And it's totally changing the world of software development. And I think that's a preview of what we can see coming down the road for our work as well. So I want to kind of just go through a bit of what I've seen, and it's going to, well, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. So this is the world that I live in generally as a coder. I feel kind of relaxed looking at that because that's anyone else does that make you look relaxed or feel relaxed? A coder works in this space. The middle part is where you write the code. The thing that is new is the piece on the side, and that is on the right side, and that is essentially a specialized type of ChatGPT that helps you code. And it does more than just help you code. Over the last few months now, especially since January, it does the code writing for you. You can tell it, oh, I just want to move that bar up to the top and add in a new field. And it says, yeah, done, there you go. So your ability to build and launch and develop applications is changing so quickly. It's super powered by the AI assistants. And actually, this is kind of out of date these days because it still has a part where the human is doing the coding, helping with the coding. Because one of the apps that we built in that workshop, this was how we built it. There's a whole new generation of services. One's called Replit, another one is called Lovable, another one's called Bolt. And they're basically automated app builders. So one of those app ideas that I showed on the earlier slide, I went to Replit and said, hey, I want to build an app that helps me analyze my charity's monthly donors and identify which ones are the best prospects to ask for an upgrade. And then I sat back and waited for it to build. We did this, when I ran the workshop, we started off, I said, I'm going to launch this and we'll come back and visit it again. Because the first time I asked Replit to do this, it took about a half an hour. In the workshop, I said, okay, we're going to launch this. And then I started explaining the next app, and then suddenly it was done. So it did it in 5 minutes in an actual live setting. I'm not going to show the app. I could show it to you later, but it actually does everything. You load your data in, it analyzes it, gives you kind of measurements of the average donation, this kind of stuff. Then it built a machine learning model, a predictive learning model based on the data that was there. And then it analyzed the kind of prospect set and scored everybody and said, there you go, download it. Now, it's not a fully, I'm not saying you can build a fully functional, ready for production app in that much time. It's great for prototyping and starting things off. But we're in this space where all of this is changing. And does anybody recognize the screenshots from this movie, very famous old movie? It's called Blade Runner. And in this, Harrison Ford, he plays the detective who he gets beat up by some androids and he comes home, back to his apartment, but he's got a piece of evidence that he wants to look at, and it's a picture. He loads it into his machine, and then he slumps back in the couch with a beer, and he starts talking to the TV, to that little screen there, and he says, like, zoom in. Okay, pan left. Okay, zoom back and focus. And he eventually finds the piece of information in that photo that he looks at. And this is kind of what they call now vibe coding, where you kind of just command the machine. You talk to the machine, you talk to the AI, say, give me that report. No, make it a little different. No, move those sections around. So that's coding. All of this is in some way transferable to the work that we're doing. We don't know how yet, but it's coming. The idea of AI becoming more and more intelligent, it knows what we're doing, it knows what we're working on, and it's better designed to help us. ChatGPT can help us a bit, but that cut and paste and all of that is not, in the end, the best way to work with AI. A week or so ago, I sat in on some keynotes from this AI Engineers World's Fair. It's where all the top AI engineers gather and share what's going on. And they are all trying to figure out what this new world means. Nobody will write code anymore very soon. There are still lots of people writing code. This is changing very quickly. The big words there were agents, which is AI that can do more than just generate text for you. It can connect with your programs. It can manipulate things. Orchestrators is a whole new class of agents that coordinates other AI. I mean, this starts to sound very science fiction-y. And yeah, it is. And then MCP is just how they talk to each other. So when you start to think about how this works for our work that we do as knowledge work, these things, this is from a Microsoft report, they say, so intelligence on tap, we can have as much intelligence as we want. Human teams working with agents will upend the org chart. Every employee becomes an agent boss. You begin running. Your work is now not doing work, it's running the agents. What does that look like? I don't know. It reminds me a bit of the story, the fable, the shoemaker and the elves. The shoemaker cuts out the leather and leaves it out overnight. The elves come in and make beautiful shoes. And then the shoemaker has enough to buy 2 shoes worth of leather. Same thing happens, the elves come in. These elves, they're weird, they're odd, they're powerful. I don't remember, it's a nursery rhyme. I'm sure it ends badly. I'm sure they all fall in a well, I think, is what happens in the end. But this is kind of like it, right? The limiting thing here is like these elves are magical. How much leather can the shoemaker buy and cut? What if the elves ran the whole factory and they could make 10,000 shoes? Okay, that's kind of a nightmare. And we're not talking about shoes. Like in our world, we're talking about knowledge work. So what does it mean when you can have this idea of unlimited intelligence to help you with your knowledge work? This is also kind of dystopian. So think back to the first picture. You're not working with AI beside you. Instead, you're an agent boss. You're commanding all these agents. This also sounds like a nightmare to me. Like what kind of, that doesn't, she looks happy, but I think she's probably not in the end. This becomes a huge coordination problem. There's an AI for that, I think is always the answer. So this idea of an orchestrator agent that can take command of that whole suite, hide it behind a more friendly interface. And this is a project that I think we'll need, because I think we'll see these are some of the kinds of things that I'm working on, developing the different agents that are specialized, that do really specific fundraising tasks. They're specific to a challenge or a bottleneck that an organization is facing or an opportunity. And with the new coding environment that exists, the new reality, I think we can become more proactive in exploring these things ourselves. We don't need to wait for the software programs to eventually add them in. We have the capability to do more of our own work. And that's the kind of work that I'm working on. But again, look at that. Who wants to work with all these different agents? Oh, I went 2 slides ahead. The idea that I'm also developing is this idea of the orchestrator. What's the orchestrator that sits on top of that and helps you out? It's one friendly interface, like a ChatGPT kind of interface that says, I can do all of this for you. I know how to work Salesforce. I know how to work MailChimp. I know how to work those bots. I know how to work even engaging networks, and I can help you with all of that. I think there's something interesting there. I could invite people to, anybody's feeling adventurous, to test out an early prototype of it. This is kind of what it might, in some ways, run like. I don't know if you can read it. It's like, let's create a new email campaign targeting activists. Let's set this up on engaging networks using our urgent email template. And the bot responds, sure, wait a minute while I get that ready. Okay, the campaign's ready for review. So you think of all the complex software that you work with, all the things you have to learn, all of the features of even engaging networks that you just aren't able to manage because it's complicated. And what if you had an assistant that could help you with that? I think that there's a piece there that we're moving toward. I don't know if it'll look like that, but I think that's kind of where this automation is heading. So, back to Mike.
Sure. I mean, we want to take questions in the app, but just there's a checklist. And the last thing I would say, if you grab this, but you'll have the deck later to do this, we've been experimenting for the last year with 2 GPTs. One is on behavioral science and fundraising. We've taken 40 books from the nonprofit sector and the commercial sector and many studies. It's been working with us and clients, and we're telling it the results as well. So it's being told how its work is going. The other one we're just finishing is on loyalty science. It, again, taking about 20 books, right, and just infusing that into a GPT to help. So grab this checklist. It's what we've learned over the last year. And then 2, we'll just get back to you and bug you and give you lots of other case studies. And we hope you enjoyed it. So thanks.
How do you balance the adoption of AI with maintaining the human connection that is central to a nonprofit's mission? That's a big one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to go, I'll go back to how I started, which is if you build policy and governance structures that talk about equity, transparency, humanness, right? That those policies guide how you'll use the technology. It's a starting place, right? It's not an absolute answer, but if you collectively build the rules together, then I think we have a better chance of finding that balance. So
I think it's also, is that on? Yeah. I think it's also about how we use the tools. The tools themselves have biases in them, but we use a lot of tools that have terrible biases in them, like Facebook. We know, and if Facebook is evil and we shouldn't use it, yet we use it to make human connection. We use it in ways that support our missions and work. And so, I think it's, with AI, I think it's some of the same thing. We have to find the ways that we use it to support that kind of connection.
All right. One more quick one. Can you share some strategies to help identify opportunities for use of AI?
For us, we've sent a survey to staff, right? Like how, and we frame it by that heart work, right? And non-heart work. And so with that framework in a survey, we begin to collect what people would like to do, and that's the start of the conversation and gives us some guidance.
I think within a lot of workflows, you can find a piece that can be kind of extracted and improved with AI without affecting the overall workflow. Like, something you would send to maybe it's not a good topic, but sending to a contract writer to complete for you. If then AI can produce that, but then you insert it back into the same approvals and review processes, so you're not creating a new workflow and you're not creating new risk or new risks. Then I think those kind of efficiencies are good ways to start without having to reinvent the whole system from top to bottom.
Great, thank you so much. Round of applause.